You know, I've been making these Warhammer videos for over a year now, and yet somehow I have never spoken about the Raven Guard. And considering we both have a fondness for outdated emo hairstyles, I think we should fix that. So the Raven Guard are the 19th Legion, and the sons of Corvus Corax. And the Raven's sons are the undisputed masters of stealth-based warfare. It's said that trying to fight them is like trying to fight a cloud of smoke. Their attacks can seemingly come from every direction at once, and no matter how skilled of a sword fighter you think you are, they can somehow manage to always be in your blind spot. And this is because the Raven Guard have a really interesting ability known as wraith slipping. You see, they have complete mastery over darkness and shadows. So from our perspective, it's almost like they can step inside a pool of darkness and reappear out of another one, sometimes a pretty long distance away. And even though this sounds like some kind of warp sorcery, there's no heresy or blasphemy here. They're just really good at being stealthy. So much so that their footsteps don't actually make any sound when they walk, which is kind of a ludicrous ability considering they're in 1,000 pounds of ceramite power armor. Oftentimes, the only way you'll know a Raven Guard is there is when you hear the crackling energy of their power claws turning on behind you, or when you hear dozens of jump packs igniting at once. And the Raven Guard actually have a pretty unique style of warfare, utilizing smaller groups of Marines to accomplish certain objectives rather than massive fighting forces. In this way, they can sow chaos behind enemy lines. You see, reconnaissance, subterfuge, and sabotage are kind of the name of the game when it comes to the 19th Legion. So that being said, you're probably not going to see a 1,000-strong horde of Raven Guard running into battle swinging chainswords around. In fact, it's actually said that if you are fighting the Raven Guard and you happen to see a pretty large force, then that pretty much means you've already lost, as this is basically the killing blow that comes after a long campaign of guerrilla tactics. Now, the reason the Raven Guard utilized smaller squads is actually kind of sad, as they were one of the 3 legions that were betrayed at Istanbul, otherwise known as the Drop Site Massacre. And this is where the men they once called brothers almost wiped them out entirely, dropping their estimated 80,000 Marines to around 3,000. There was actually an attempt by their Primarch to accelerate the rebuilding of the Legion. Now, this was done using the original genetic material that all of the Primarchs were made from. By all accounts, his first few experiments were rather successful. But then, due to some shenanigans from the Alpha Legion, the rest of those experiments went really badly. So needless to say, it was a complete failure. Corvus was haunted by these events, felt an unbelievably deep sense of shame over what he had tried to do, and would end up leaving his sons and disappearing without a trace after the Horus Heresy had ended. And even now, thousands of years later, the official records state that his whereabouts are unknown. Now, that being said, it's also rumored that he's currently a giant loyalist crow demon in the warp, and he's been hunting down the traitor Primarchs that betrayed him and his men at Istanbul, never resting until he satiated his need for vengeance in the blood of heretics. Now, whether or not this is true or not, only time will tell. But it's big if true.